I want to start with something simple, which is a quote you shared recently. You said the secret to confidence after 50 is that you already survived everything you thought would break you.
Yeah, it's true. I have had a life where there were a lot of barriers put up, walls that you couldn't climb over, you couldn't tunnel through, you just had to smash them. You had to get up all your courage and go for it. Everything I had to turn around and execute myself. So, when I got a diagnosis of stage 3 breast cancer when I was 72, I just thought, fucking got to be kidding. Really? I mean, I'm supposed to sail through these years. I've gone through enough. And my husband died of cancer, and it had been 25 years earlier. It was terrible suffering, really biblical. So I was terrified of chemotherapy. And the night before I had to start chemotherapy, I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to go to sleep tonight. I went to sleep instantly, and I had a dream. I'm driving down a dirt road, very, very rough, unpaved, wilderness on each side, in my little VW Bug, my very favorite car from when I was 18. And I don't know where I'm going, but I know I've got to get somewhere. There's someplace I need to be. It's life or death. And I suddenly come up upon a gigantic needlepoint mountain and hit right into it. And I look up and I think, I'm never going to get up there in this little car. So I realize I can't get around it. Zoom, try to go up, fall back down. Try again, fall back down. Try a third time, fall back down. And I turn the car off, get out of the car, grow into a giant, and the mountain becomes a sharp pebble under my feet that I just step over easily. And that summarized for me how I needed to approach cancer and get through it. I was going to become my bigger self. I wasn't going to let it overwhelm me. I wasn't going to let it dwarf me. I was going to grow into the person I was meant to be for this situation and sail through it. It was very comforting. I understood it instantly, and it made a good chapter in a book.
Diane Gilman was born with a mission, and she has followed it for the past 80 years. Despite becoming best known as the Gene Queen of Home Shopping Network and QVC for over 30 years, and despite selling over $100 million worth of her designs, the fashion was, as it turns out, just the expression that fit in that season of her life, and she has never been afraid to keep reinventing. From a difficult and abusive childhood where designing was her escape, through UCLA in her 20s where she found herself designing clothing for Cher, Jimi Hendrix, and eventually every single department store window in Manhattan in its heyday, Diane just kept moving. After nursing the love of her life through cancer and then in her 70s, battling and overcoming it herself, Diane has decided she needed another change. And that has come in the form of a whole new chapter as the wildly popular social media pro-aging advocate and podcast host that I've discovered today. It's been a bumpy ride and at times very lonely, but Diane has left it all out on the field in every single chapter and has lived more lifetimes than most. Perhaps that's why she is the pro-aging advocate we need, because she deeply understands that life is an exquisite miracle. And really, she just wishes that everyone, regardless of their age, saw it that way. The problem with thinking that you have survived the worst is you don't realize life just keeps going, right? Let's talk a little bit about your childhood because there's a little bit out there about your parents and how you grew up. Where do you think this just keep going comes from?
I don't think very many children at around the age of 3 or 4 look at their parents and think, these people should not have been parents. What were they thinking? abused by my father, hated by my mother, um, no support, no relief. And so I spent my childhood trying to defend myself from my father and being heartbroken that my mother acted like, what are you doing in this house? Who are you? I don't want you. So I came to a very sad and bitter conclusion at a young age that the one thing most people took for granted, which was family, I had none. I had to get out of there as fast as I could and fulfill my destiny. I never went back home. I left when I was about 19.
Mm-hmm.
I never spoke to them, never went back home, never asked for a penny, even if I was starving to death, until about 35 years later when my father passed on. And then I felt it was important to be there for the funeral. I wanted to see if I could get something going with my mother. And at the memorial get together afterwards, I said something about just getting back from Paris, working in Paris, and my mother said, "Oh, yeah, that reminds me, I guess we never told you. You had a 4-year scholarship to the Sorbonne, but we burnt the letter because we didn't want you to go."
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, they didn't want me to go. That wasn't my life was going to be. You go to college not to get educated, just to find a man, and that's the rest of your life. You're with that man. And you have the classical role of the woman, the supporter, the mother, the nurturer. Yeah, I've always thought to myself, I had no idea how to raise a child or care for a child. I mean, it just was never there for me. Plus, it
Mm.
was not my destiny. There are plenty of women around that want to have children, but
Right.
the ones that don't, hopefully don't because they have something to do. For me, it was fashion design. It was so strong. It was so obsessive. I had to design something every day. It was like breathing air. It was like drinking water. It was that elemental to me. And what a privilege to get to spend my entire life doing something I loved so much.
Well, and I want to interject here with one thing, which is I interviewed someone who is the leading researcher on the child free by choice movement. This is a man, Keith Hayward, and what he has discovered is that estimates as high as 20 to 25% of the US adult population never wanted kids. So
Yeah.
we're changing our understanding of, and look, I have 2 kids, I love them, it's great, whatever. This idea that fulfillment must come from that, or that as a woman, if you don't have children, you better justify it somehow, is something we just categorically reject. So I need to put that out there. But because of exactly what you experienced, I think it is incredibly selfish to have children if you do not want to parent those children. You will do
Yeah.
more damage to the planet by not loving the children that are in your care, right? So, but I do want to put a pin in your family story so that we can move on to your story, by asking you, what is your understanding at this point of why your parents were the way they were? And is there anything that you wish you knew about them?
Why were my parents the way they were? Well, they were Ellis Island children. They came over from Poland and Ukraine, 1906, 1905. I think my mother was 2 at the time. And so I think there was always that Jewish immigrant, um, and then Nazi Germany umbrella hanging over their head. My father was so poor that his 7 brothers and sister got together for his 16th birthday and bought him a grapefruit. He had never eaten citrus fruit,
So they
ever.
were carrying a lot of trauma.
So that was poverty trauma, survival trauma, and quite frankly, Jewish trauma too. My grandfather on my mother's side was really good at woodwork, became a master craftsman, good at real estate, bought property. Before the Depression, they lived in a mansion with a ballroom
In California?
in Portland, Maine. And after the Depression, well, after, excuse me, the crash, where he had invested almost all his money in the stock market. My grandmother became the cook. My grandfather became the handyman, the super, and my mother became the maid. And they had to turn the mansion into a transient boarding house. That's how she met my father. He was a transient. He, I found out when I was 50, had an illegitimate child, and the mother had been a socialite. He wouldn't support her pregnancy. Family disowned her during the Depression. She went crazy. My half sister was put in a series of orphanages, very bitter. And then my parents got married in Tijuana around 1935. I mean, okay. And then 10 years after I was born, or 9 years after I was born, they went to Las Vegas and got married at the first honeymoon chapel. Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to know about my parents. I mean, they told me that divorced people were the most evil people in the world, but my father was divorced.
Yeah, we are, by the way.
All, all of this haze and smoke and lies, and you know, I was brought up in a way where you couldn't trust men.
Mm.
Men would attack you all the time. You couldn't trust family. There was no support there. So, I mean, I was in a way perfect to be an obsessive career woman
Wow.
because I had myself.
I
That's what
see.
I had. And I never let me down. If something wasn't going right, I just worked 5 times harder. That's all. And um,
You
in a way, I
know,
led a very
by the way,
solitary life.
that's like it's a coffee mug. It's something I never let me down, and that's so true. You really never did let yourself down. I never let me down. I love that, and that's gonna be. I'm gonna have it knitted on a cozy or something.
I better
But
write this down immediately. I'll forget it.
you should.
Yeah, that was all I ever heard all my life, as long as I was still at home. Um, was you could have been like your cousin Nancy. Okay, Nancy went to college.
Got her
After
MRS.
about a year, she
Mhm.
met her pre-med husband.
Right.
She became the receptionist in the medical office, popped out 7 children. That was like you couldn't be more like your cousin Nancy.
Seven
That's all
children.
that was just pounded into my brain. Meanwhile, when I went back home, I was already really well known as a designer. I had my name up in every major department store in their glory days, but should have been more like my cousin Nancy, my mother. And then I got on TV.
Well, let's kind of walk people through if they don't know the history, right? You ended up going to UCLA. While you were there, you managed to start your own boutique.
Yeah, we had a collective, and one day we made $10 dresses. They were all a line, kind of like London Biba,
Mm.
with fabric patches. I mean, they were as creative as you could get, but it was very, very much mod dressing. Our boutique was called I'm a Hog for You Baby because we researched it as much as you could at that time, and we decided that was the first rock and roll song ever recorded. I'm a Hog for You
Ah,
Baby.
is that
So
what brought Cher in?
yeah, so we were across the street from Katz's Deli
Hmm.
on Fairfax Avenue, and that's where all the celebrities went to eat heart attack food. White Rolls Royce pulls up, Penny gets out, says, I'm going in for a corned beef. Do you want anything? And she says no. And she decides to come into the boutique and then screams for Sonny and the chauffeur. And they took every rack of clothing out to the boot of the Rolls Royce, threw it in, and we had to close down the door for the shop. We had to close down the shop for days because we were the ones sewing all of this stuff and we had no stock. And I met her, and I met Jimi Hendrix, and I met Janis Joplin, and I met Anne Margaret, and I was always on the periphery of the music industry, and then I followed it up to San Francisco, and I did hand painted leathers for Rod Stewart, and then one day I just woke up and said, you know, you're like 26 now. I thought that was really old. And you've got to make a decision. You're going to be in this scene forever,
In San
or you're
Francisco?
going to be professional.
Right.
I knew one person in New York. I had enough money for one airline ticket, and I took it, and I never left.
Well, you
Yeah.
are a New Yorker. Gotta say, it emanates from you, because it's a certain type of energy, it's not warm, it's not cold. It is just all of the things. It's I never let me down. That's basically what it is. I never let me down.
I'm
So
going to
you
have
moved?
to put this on a sweatshirt.
I
That is
know.
for sure.
I love it. We'll get matching ones. So you
Okay.
moved to New York,
And no one
and
would hire me.
no
No
one would hire
one.
you? What were
I
you
had
applying
no
for?
education. Being embellished denim for rock and roll stars was not a passport into the fashion industry.
But it was a passport
And
into Studio 54, no?
I was heartbroken. Yeah. I remember the first time in Studio 54, and that was hilarious. So I was wearing an elongated blazer,
Mhm.
fishnet stockings, a feather boa, no skirt, no pants, high heels, and I was with this guy. Oh my God, he was such a maniac. Boris, the Russian ballet dancer. He was crazy, but he was really beautiful. Anyway, we got in. I was gobsmacked. And I turned around and said, would you excuse me for a minute? I have to go to the ladies' room. And I walk into the ladies' room, and it's all men and all transvestites and lines of white powder going all around the room. And I'm like, excuse me, wrong room. Then I go into the men's room, and it looks exactly like the ladies' room. And I'm thinking, I'm really confused. I'm not sophisticated enough for this place, but that was, I don't know, in so many ways, it was the epitome of New York. It was when New York was doing really groundbreaking, original music scenes and social scenes, and that was amazing, and it fits so well, nestled right into the fashion industry and why you had to have more and more and more and more new stuff because it's so many things to show it off for. And I somehow managed with no money, no backing, to get discovered by Bloomingdale's, and they actually funded me for my first season. They gave me all the windows of the store week after week, double trunk, 2-page ads. And so I was sort of on my way,
Mm.
but it took me till I was 60 years old to actually feel that I was doing something that really resonated with my heart. And that heart energy, if you can put that into whatever you're producing, I don't care whether it's a book or a jean or a t-shirt, you've got it. People will recognize it. People will want to gravitate towards it.
Well, I think there's something about New York energy that makes that particularly true. The moment when you came to New York was probably the best kind of moment it could have been. I grew up in New York.
Terrifying.
You know, I spent a lot of time clubbing in the 90s. Everyone
Ah,
still talked about Studio 54. Ironically, my father came here from India, immigrant with nothing in the 60s, and he used to hang out at Studio 54. So God knows, maybe you were shimmying over here and my dad was shimmying over there. And he told me he remembered thinking, who lives like this? Because he had come from really, really nothing.
yeah.
But anyway, so Studio 54 was a moment in time in New York City. And I think it's interesting that you say you don't know how you ended up getting Bloomingdale's to take you on. Something was going on back then in New York. People wanted to get to know each other, and circulating and being social really helped you get ahead. But how did you go from From being the girl who comes to New York with just enough money to buy that one-way plane ticket to being the woman who is doing every window in New York City.
It took forever, but came so quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, I'm going to die unknown. I'm not talented enough. I'm not anything enough. And the only job I could get, I was a waitress at Max's Kansas City at
Okay.
night, worst cocktail waitress in history. And during the day, I had a job in the old ladies girdle department at Bloomingdale's. It was so fucking depressing. I cannot even begin to tell you. Everybody had rubber molded sandals in that department except for me. I must have been 50 years younger than the next youngest salesperson. So I read Woman's Wear every day just to feel like I was connected, like I was here for some reason.
Yeah.
And I recognized a woman coming steamrolling across the second floor, and she was the assistant fashion coordinator, but a big deal. And she wanted to switch around the whole department. And she said it wasn't making any money. None of the older salespeople wanted to help her at all. They were like, I'm just going to go hide in the dressing room. And I said, I'll help you. And by the way, I'm a designer. Well, I went home at night and I sewed. And I had made this little 8-piece collection. And I even quilted my own fabric. And okay, so she's like, oh God, another would-be designer. So she said, okay, 8 weeks from today, I can give you 15 minutes at 4 o'clock. I showed up. She took one look at the collection. She said, hold on a minute, picked up the phone. I thought, oh, she's going to get security and throw me out. Um, she called a gentleman named Gene Sharkey, who was a senior vice president of Abraham and Straus, which was the big department store in Brooklyn at the time, and they had a one-stop connection in the subway underneath Bloomingdale's. And she said, "Get over here right away. There's something you've got to see." He comes, and between them, they order $100,000 worth of my little 8-piece collection.
Which
And
changes your life.
I burst out in tears. And she says, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I don't have any money to produce this. I thought you were going to buy like 3 pieces." But I'll never forget the day. I just stood there. Carpenters came in, workmen came in, and they were hammering my name up on the wall. And that was such a big moment for me. And I went on like that for a long time. And I understood where my place was. I wanted to dress the every woman. I didn't want to make ball gowns. I didn't want to make red carpet. And I followed my generation. Then again, more or less by happenstance, I turned 50, 52. My
Yeah.
body is totally changed.
Yeah.
I'm chubby. Everything is in the wrong place. My hair is like, what? My skin, everything is different, and I am not liking it. And meanwhile, I'm making washable silks. I hand painted all the prints. I'm really good at it, but it's not anything I would wear. What do I want? I want to go back to my rock and roll days. I want to wear jeans. So I go on a quest every weekend. I devote at least half a day to just shopping another giant jean entrepreneur like the Gap or the third floor of Macy's, and I can't find any jean that fits a middle-aged body. One day, I think to myself, wait a minute, you've got a professional sewing room in New York. Take your body measurements, go out and buy 3 yards of denim, and have the sewers make you a jean. So my measurements are totally middle-aged, round around the middle, skinny little legs, the whole thing. I do it. I'm walking down 34th Street to 7th Avenue and 34th for work. I have my own showroom. Right by now, I'm like 57. Two young guys are in a manhole cover for Con Ed. One of them looks up, sees me, and screams out, "Hey, lady, you got it going." And I never took those jeans off. I own them to this day. 33 years, no, 23 years later. And I thought, wait a second. If wearing one article of clothing from my youth, but now reconstructed for where I am in life, can make me feel this good, wouldn't this work for millions of women? So I start shopping the idea around of a middle-aged jean, and people are like, "You total idiot. No middle-aged woman is going to want to wear a jean. They want to wear baggy, hide-me clothing." No, they don't. They just don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
So QVC came to me. Then I went to HSN, and then we get a female CEO. And I hit her with the idea. And she says, "Well, Diane, this is tele-retail. They can't try it on. They can't feel it." I said, "Don't worry about it. I've worn these jeans every day for 2 years now. I know everything to say about them. Give me a chance. Just give me a chance." She doesn't really know me. I only know that she was at Ralph Lauren Polo for the inception of Polo. So she knows jeans. So she says, "Okay, but I'm not going to waste prime time on you. I can't afford to lose $500,000 in an hour." I get 5 a.m. on a nasty February winter Sunday morning, and my host is a 4X and is screaming at me before the show, "I hate jeans.
Oh,
I'll never wear a jean. And I hate you for designing these jeans." And I'm like screaming at her, "Please, begging you, just put on the jeans. No one is going to buy them if the host isn't going to wear them." And then the lights go on and we say hello. And within 3 minutes, 5,000 jeans sell out. And we have nothing left to sell for the entire hour. But I see the writing on the wall. And it was revolutionary. I shot to #1. I was #1 tele-retail fashion personality company eventually.
also known as the Jean Queen, which is a nice sort
Yeah,
of full circle from the beginning where Cher's coming in all the way to
yeah.
this. It's a nice full
We
circle.
leveled out at about $100 million a year retail, year after year. Um, it was so creative. It was so much fun. And at a certain point, I thought, we're leaving money on the table. This isn't right. And I went to QVC CEO and said, "It doesn't matter whether a woman is eating fish and chips or a plate of pasta. They're all going to go through menopause and they're going to not like their body afterwards. And there's my gene waiting to make them happy. Please, please, please give me a chance." So I got the UK shot to #1. Milan, Italy, #1. Opened up France for them out of Paris, #1. Toronto, Canada, and Melbourne, Australia, and Germany, and Dusseldorf, Germany. So, in my very own way, I always made my own opportunities. And I think if there had to be one key phrase to my life, I really honored and believed in my destiny. I knew my destiny and I never lost track of it.
You know, what's beautiful about it is you were in it for the beauty of the thing you wanted to create, right?
Oh,
Of course, everybody wants to build a name for themselves, but if that had been your entire goal, you could have done it in other ways, right?
I wanted to live within my own creativity. I always likened myself to a surfer looking for the perfect wave. My gene was the perfect wave. And I understood my generation because that was my generation and I needed that stuff. It became very personal and I would wish it for everybody.
You know, they say behind every great woman is often a supportive man. Let's talk about your husband. When did
That
you
was so
meet?
sad. Oh,
Yeah.
that was so sad.
I want to know
So,
when you met and what his place was in this journey for you.
so total support. He never wanted to be the king. He would be the kingmaker. He was a counselor. I was a very shredded, broken person from my childhood and my family, and he put me back together again. We were together almost 20 years. The first 10 years were building years, and I don't really believe I could have ever gone on and done what I needed to do and been as determined and focused as I was without his support and his understanding and his training. And then we had a farmhouse in Connecticut. It was a major storm. I had just pulled up in the 4x4. Phone was ringing, no one on the other end. This is how long ago this was.
Mm.
And then I realized it was a fax. And the fax printed out a piece of paper that said, "You have stage 4 cancer. It's terminal." All these times when he said he was going shopping or just going for a drive, he had actually been at a hospital. So he finally pulled up and he never wanted me to know. And here we were. So the next 8 years became hospitals, surgeries, trying everything, and losing him. And again, the only thing that really saved my life was my talent. Once again, I could bury myself in my work after he was gone. I never wanted to go through that kind of pain again. I had someone, I was like a broken teapot. He meticulously glued me back together, and I was fragile, and I didn't want to slip and break again. I
How old were
devoted the rest of
you
my life to, I was 47 when
when you
he
met him?
passed.
When he passed.
No, yeah.
You were 47 when he passed, which is very young. So you met him sort of right when you came to New York.
No, I came to New York at about 24. I met him around, well, it was complicated. Let me put it that way. But when he passed on, I don't know, sometimes you meet someone in your life and you just say, there isn't going to be another one, or I can't go through this again. I can't. I won't survive it the next time. I had almost lost my business. I was really immersed in his illness, and those are very complicated feelings. And usually, when you have a disease like that and you have been used to being a really strong, physically dominant, vibrant person, you're very angry. So I dealt with a lot of different permutations of him.
Mm.
And
Were
it
you
was enough.
angry? Were you angry with him for not telling you for so long? Or were you just not
No,
surprised?
no, I wasn't angry and I wasn't not surprised. He felt that once people found out you were sick, they started treating you like a dead person. I can attest to that. When
Mm.
I had breast cancer, had to cut so many people out of my life where I said, I'm going to be okay. I knew I was going to be okay. And
Mm.
they would look at you with this, oh, yes, dear, that's a nice fantasy. Everybody dies of cancer. You could see what was, it
Not
was like a
helpful.
banner going
Yeah.
on across their head. You could read their minds. And then I truly understood why he felt the way he did. He wanted to be treated like he was a whole, healthy person until that was not possible anymore. No, I had no anger towards him, only grief, deep grief. And I remember coming back from his memorial service, which was beautiful. And I was walking down the street. A group of people were walking towards me. They were patting one another on the back. They were laughing. They were telling jokes. They were smiling. And I thought to myself, when is the last time you laughed?
Mm.
I couldn't remember. You
Mm.
know, everybody takes it differently. If you come out of a background like I came out of, and you find a male character in your life that's actually on your side and
Mm.
for you,
Mm.
losing that is devastating.
It sounds like you lost your family. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Can you?
after that, I never really had a deep relationship again. I had relationships, but I never chose
Hmm.
deep ever.
Do you think you closed yourself off after that, or do you think you just never
Yeah, of
met
course.
anybody?
I closed myself off. I didn't want to go through that. Didn't want
Well,
to.
I'm 48. I divorced at 43. I had a boyfriend who died when I was 24. I've been through all sorts of things as well. Is there anything you would do differently? If you could talk to yourself at 48, because I'm 48, I'm sitting right here, got 2 kids, I've been through the divorce, I've been through a lot of hits, I've been through my own near death experiences, and there's a part of me that says it is just too much work at this point to blend a life with someone. And then there's a part of me that says half of my life is ahead of me. Stay
Um,
open.
I don't know what motivates you. So it would be very difficult for me to go back. But
Yeah.
for me in my 40s, and 47, 48 was obviously a really seminal year for
Yeah.
me. Not only did I lose my best friend and this support, but I almost lost my business and I didn't like what I was designing and
Mm,
I didn't really relate to it, but it did make money. So there was a lot of distance there. I felt I was in the backwaters of fashion. I didn't know how to get into the river and the current.
mm.
And if I was going to say something, I would say don't calendar your life and never say never. If you had told me in two youth obsessed industries, television and fashion, that my light bulb moment year would be 60, I
Yeah.
would tell you that was it. I would have told you at 47 or 48 that is impossible. It doesn't work that way. But you don't know what's in store for you. And maybe you just haven't met somebody who makes it not such hard work, but
Mm.
makes it much more automatic. And you could fall in love at 60 the way I became an instant hit at 60, as if I had never been around fashion before and I suddenly was there. Um, I think I spent a lot of my life saying, it's too late. It'll never happen to me. Life's gone by. This is all there is. And
Mm.
no, it's not all there is. It's just, you're not calendaring your life. Your
I love it.
karma is your karma is not 100% apparent to you.
I love that.
Um,
And, so then you became known as the Gene Queen. You had this major kind of
yeah,
explosion in your
yeah,
popularity. And you said you can either age joyfully or resentfully. And then you
yep,
credit cancer for pushing you to the joyful. I mean, how does that
yep.
even happen? Very few people are going to say cancer pushed them to the joyful.
I was in a highly pressurized place.
Mm.
I had three packed suitcases at home in my hallway
Mhm.
at all times. Drop one, 20 hours later, on another plane. Go to Europe for 2.5 days, on a
Mm.
plane again. Sometimes having to go straight to Florida, where the HSN studios were,
Mm.
and straight to a studio and get on a show. I loved my life and I hated my life. It was so abusive. It
Yeah.
was so um there was a loneliness to it, an unfulfilled kind of satisfaction to it. You were in a couple of really nasty industries that never really wanted to let you know how valuable you were because then you might ask for more, God
Oh.
forbid. So
Hmm.
anyway, I got a diagnosis. I was literally, it was out of body. I was numb. I knew one doctor who had done a female based operation. I called him up and I said, well, they said it was hopeless. And he said, don't be stupid.
Okay. We like
Nothing's
that.
hopeless.
Right.
I want you to see Dr. Alyssa Port. And if you want to know who she is, she's got 5 best-selling books on breast cancer and with the New York Times. Buy one of the books, overnight it, read it. It was Christmas holidays. She'll be back in January. she takes me in immediately, says, I'll be your surgeon. And we're off and running.
Mm.
I am used to 5-star hotels, fresh flowers, lots of service, first class air. And this place, the Dubin Center, dropped into Mount Sinai here on 5th. I live 5 blocks away on 5th. I had just bought the apartment, the penthouse. It was just sort of perfect. So I'm used to being recognized, signing autographs, and, minor celebrity stuff. I'm sitting in, everyone got a private treatment room. I'm sitting there, and no one's really paying attention to me. I'm just going through chemo.
Right.
It happened to be a day when a friend was not with me because somebody always wanted to be with me,
Mm.
which was so kind. And I hear, Sheila, Sheila, Sheila's here. Everybody comes stampeding. I
Okay.
think, who the fuck is Sheila? How could she be more important than me? She must be a soap opera star or a Broadway star or a news anchor or, I mean, seriously, no one comes thundering and running when I walk in.
Right.
I'm I'm incensed. I can't, this is not in my universe. I cannot figure this out. So they say, we've got your favorite lunch today. We saved 4 of them for you. Okay, well, they finally come in to see me, and I said, what, do I look like chopped liver? You
Right.
didn't even ask me if I wanted lunch. And she said, Diane, you never eat lunch. I said, well, I know, but you could at least ask me. And she said, okay, do you want lunch today? And I said, well, no, thank you. But I do want to know, who is Sheila? Is she famous society babe? Is she a famous soap opera star? Is she a famous news anchor? Is she a Broadway musical legend? Who is Sheila? And the nurse looks at me because what I do couldn't be further than what a chemo nurse does with every day of her life. Okay. She looks at me like I'm out of my mind, literally,
Mm-hmm.
and says, no, she's none of those things. She's a battered wife who cannot go home because it's too dangerous, has stage 3 cancer in both breasts, and is living in a homeless shelter with her child.
Wow.
And the food is so horrendous in the shelter that these 4 sandwiches we give her are 4 meals for her. It's 1 sandwich per day, so she can at least try and eat something and not waste away. I was so blown away. I was so ashamed. I was so like, get a grip on yourself. Look at your life.
Yeah.
And it changed me forever. I understood what I needed to do, that I'd lived enough of my life. I've been on air almost 30 years. I was contracted to come back. I had to do that. And when I got back on air, I thought, is this bringing you joy? Is
Mm.
this bringing you happiness? If your life is limited because of cancer, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? And the answer was no. I want to find something else, bigger, something I can learn, use my additional talents for communication with. I
Mm.
understand the camera. I understand telling stories. I seem to have more like a universal woman's mind. And I decided, as comfortable as it was to be number one, I didn't want to do something I could do in a semi coma. I
Mm.
wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to live out my old age, learning, helping, building legacy, and making a difference. And it's led me to a lot of joyful moments.
You know what's beautiful about that is you clearly were living in a very specific segment of society. Once
Oh,
you're
totally.
traveling, you're doing first class, you're doing, I'm sure you're at the right party in the Hamptons. It's the best skin creams, the best reservations, all the invitations, all that kind of thing. And people can get swallowed up by that life. But the fact that in that moment, your response was not, oh, I'm glad nobody knew what I was thinking. Your response was, I should be ashamed of myself for that
Yep.
thought process.
Yep. Shame on
Shows that
me.
your inner self didn't change, right? Because you can be brought right back to your senses if your inner self has never been changed by all of the glitz and the glamour and the money and the success. So that sort of speaks to who you are. I had a similar moment actually. Which is actually related to cancer. I was 24 when I had a boyfriend who died. And long story short, he just didn't come home one night. I fell into a very deep depression for about a year and a half. I think I pretty much threw up every day. And it was right around 9/11. And I
Wow.
remember one day I woke up and I felt a lump. And I went to the doctor to have a lump looked at, and the doctor did the biopsy. And when I got the call, maybe a few days later, saying it's benign, it's not cancer, I actually had a really disgusting reaction, which was that I felt immediately in my heart disappointed.
Oh my God.
And I was like, how dare I? How dare that be my response? He's
Wow.
dead. I'm not. How dare
Wow.
I? How dare I? For all the people in the world who just found out they got cancer, because that means I'm literally letting my mourning and grief kill me.
Yeah.
Time to make a change. Time to make a
Yeah.
change. I
Yeah.
quit my job. I moved to LA. I started writing. I just basically reset my life. And
Yeah.
all that is to say, I am still to this day horrified that I was disappointed. But there are moments where your insides say, snap out of it. And so I want to know how you go from that moment, and Sheila, who we say a little prayer for, and her child. Um, I want to know how you go from that moment to social media. Like if you became a pro-aging advocate, right? What's the line?
I always felt that women got a bad rap, that
Oh,
men aged much easier with much more respect and dignity, and that women were sort of like get thee to a nunnery the minute you were finished with being reproductive.
right.
And I got tired of it. I fought it and I fought it. And luckily, I was in an industry, tele-retail, that was all about an aging customer. So I spoke their language, but I also realized that they had no way out. So I thought, well, I'll write another book. And then I wrote another two books. Because you can write a book when you're an older female and no one can say anything. And then I thought, why waste your skills in front of a camera and all the years, 31 years on air, where you learned how to speak and tell stories and sell a solution to a problem. And I was able to sell my company. And then I thought, okay, one of the worst things about growing old is you just get out of the flow.
Mm.
You're out of the loop. What's more in the loop than social media? Would they be interested in seeing how a woman ages to 80? I'm going to be 80 in about 3 weeks, and past 80, and maybe it looks good to them, and maybe there's a lot of solutions there for them and a lot of mood enhancers, because women tend to get very depressed as they age and really feel useless. And I thought, all right, there's my legacy. There's doing good for a certain swath of the social makeup of America.
Is your target audience for pro-aging women like me, 40s, 50s, so that we look forward to what's coming?
So, or even if you don't want to look forward to it, at least you've got a forewarning
Mm.
of how to navigate it. Yeah. We
Good.
just started a third podcast. So we do Fashion Thursdays. Love it. Get to be very dishy and dissy and talk about fashion. Um, Too Young to Be Old, which is all about solutions, physical, whatever. And now a new podcast, our third podcast called 80/40, which is if you take things that are of interest to females that overlap between my 40-year-old brand manager, who's on air now with me for that, and me. And it's actually sort of hilarious where you come together and you're sort of dealing with the same thing, but
Yeah.
so differently, and where you could care less now, or they could care less at their age, where it's like, just kick the can down the road. And I'm saying, I have no time left to kick the can down the road. It's got to get done now. So,
I love that.
I think the best thing for me is I had done the same thing on television, HSN and QVC, for so long. I barely needed to put any thought into it. And now I'm so stimulated again. I learn new things every day. I'm always doing research. I'm always meeting great new people like you. Life is exciting. And when you think about 80 years old, you don't think that you're going to be currying these challenges and be so stimulated. But I've come to the conclusion it's the age of customization, and it's up to you. Sit and vegetate if that's what you want.
Wow.
Just what I wanted to keep the essence of me, which was always curious and wanting to push ahead at full speed. And so I lead a really purpose driven, pragmatic life. No different than when I was 40.
So let's do a little bit of a lightning round. Is it easier to take chances in your 70s than it was in your 30s?
No,
What, if anything, do you regret when it comes to love?
not having a loving family, but it's a lottery, I guess. It's a spiritual lottery. You get who you get and you try and deal with it.
Is being 79 on the cusp of 80 better with a family of friends than it would be with the family that you were born into?
I don't think about it that way. I think about it, is it better for me to have the attitude I have, which is joyful and productive and interested and feeling really alive? And then you are guaranteed that you're going to magnetize people to you, that everyone's going to get a benefit out of it.
Well, I do believe that you magnetize. So, last lightning round question. Any man on earth, any age who has lived at any time, who's your celebrity crush?
There would be a couple. This is going to sound so stupid. Clark Gable
Uh-huh.
and Brad Pitt. I like Brad Pitt. Okay. I
Listen,
like him.
that is a
That's
good
it.
looking room.
And
It-
yeah, and I thought Clark Gable, I thought it must be so interesting to be born into the golden age of Hollywood and be the ultimate testosterone laden male. And yeah, that I depend a lot on the visual.
What a
So it, of
time.
course, would be two movie stars.
Of course. And what a time that might have been to be alive. But then again, what a time it might have been to have hung out at Studio 54 back in the day. And what a time it might be to turn 83 weeks from now, right?
Yeah, and so many things that are important to me, like respect, like people are very curious about me and they think, for better or for worse, that I have some kind of wisdom.
Hmm.
I think you have to work really hard as you get older to keep the essence of you. And it's a little bit pressurized, but I like it. I've lived with pressure all my life, so it feels really normal to me.
Pressure is what makes diamonds.
Pressure makes diamonds, one of my very favorite sayings, for sure.
I love that. You know, I will end on this. I don't know if you've read the book, which is I think currently one of Oprah's book picks. It's called The Emperor of Gladness. You
I have
described
not.
at some point, you were asked to describe life in some context, and you described life as an absolutely exquisite miracle. And the way that you said it feels very deep. For someone who comes from not the best start, to hold on to that belief through everything. And it's not as if your life has been a cakewalk, although it's been, chock full of all sorts of amazing moments, like someone hammering your name up onto the wall, right? And doing all the windows at Macy's. But I wondered if you had ever heard of the first line of The Emperor of Gladness, which is the hardest thing in life. No, the hardest thing in the world is to live only once.
Yeah, I never felt like I lived only once. I felt like I've lived 1,000 different lives. And when people say, oh, it goes by so quickly, can you believe you're 80? Yeah, I can believe I'm 80. And I've been so many different people, but only in some periods of my life have I come so close to feeling potentially I was the woman I always dreamt I wanted to be and could be. But yeah, I see these are the bonus years. These are the years that everybody fluffs off like, oh, you shouldn't be doing anything. Why are you working so crazy? Just sit back, go on a cruise. What are you, out of your mind? I think if you open up your eyes, if you realize you've been through a mortal disease and survived, I don't see how you cannot be grateful. I don't see how you cannot look at the world and even see something like a butterfly lighting on a flower in your garden as a miracle.
Mm.
Um, Everything seems slightly exaggerated to me. Food that I really want to eat, which I do occasionally,
Mm.
tastes so exquisite. It's like my taste buds, my sight, my soul, everything is so heightened. And so these are very special years, and I wish that for everybody.
From your lips to God's ears.